I know what you're thinking. He's a pretty good-looking guy. Looks like he outkicked his coverage, which I did. What does this jacked-up professional football player know about struggling with masculinity? Well, how we've defined masculinity to date doesn't allow this part of me to exist. So I spent my life hiding it, like so many other men. It's an invisible brotherhood. As a young boy, I was abused and bullied. These experiences were traumatic. They made me scared of the world and confused about where I fit in. I felt as if I couldn't turn to anyone. Don't be a wimp. You sound like a wuss. Man up, bro. These messages I heard about being a man, they cut off any opportunity for me to reach out. And that was the PG version. They turn into that little voice in your head that talks you out of becoming who you are and convinces you that you're not a man unless you're the aggressor. And since the moment I became a victim, my fight or flight signals have been on high alert. I've been preparing my whole life for someone or something to hurt me. What do you do when you prepare for battle? You protect yourself. You put on your armor. And yet, the most dangerous predators of all, the ones right here, that voice, my thoughts, they became detrimental to my development as a man, as a human. Our society of men have been conscripted to abide by a set of guidelines that make us unequivocally masculine. They've led to an entrenched culture of emotional silence amongst men. And this silence has reached toxic proportions. It's killing us. The armory we wear deflects any real, genuine connection. Sheltered me from love, a sense of belonging, and experiencing joy. Men, we need to express our emotions. Something as basic as testosterone means that we have a biological need for exertion. Gone are the days where being a man means hunting for our food and protecting our villages. I can buy a woolly mammoth steak at Whole Foods if I want. Today, survival looks different. We need emotional, spiritual, and physical ventilation to thrive because we spend 90% of our time inside. It's no longer ingrained in our daily lives. We got to create it for ourselves. We have to go outside to get inside. Personally, when I'm upset, angry, frustrated, and I need to ventilate, I head to the mountains or go to the beach. Meditate, do yoga, chuck a couple axes around. I actually do. I talk to my wife, and I see a therapist. And regardless of what anyone else, that little voice in my head might say, these things work for me. In an alpha male environment, the peacocking is nonstop. If I don't assert myself, I will be perceived as weak. But I don't need to abide by the framework's rules. I need to be me. Because in 2011, a concussion put me out for 3 months, gave me another depressive episode. This challenge made me question my sole identity as a football player and sparked my evolution. It was a really scary time for me because others that I could relate to and admired were taking their own lives. After learning that Junior Seau, one of my football idols, had taken his own life, I knew I needed to take a deeper look into mine. It was time to dig. As a young man, the denial of what I perceived at the time was weakness was my only option. I didn't have the courage to risk taking off my mask. My whole life, I was so preoccupied with protecting myself that I missed any opportunity to learn about who I was until I started to find the strength in the stories of others. This is when I began to acknowledge the truth in my story and see the man that I could become. When I started talking about it publicly, other men started listening. My friends started coming out of the woodworks and sharing their struggles with me. And although they felt safe telling me, there was still a sense of shame that made them feel secrecy was necessary. This is when I recognized that even though we all have varying experiences, we suffer shamefully in silence, hiding behind our masks to ensure we're upholding the standard. A large majority of men are resistant to seeking out health and wellness services for fear how a prostate exam might look on their masculinity resume. Everybody's got that stubborn man in their life. There's probably a couple in this room, been dodging their appointments their whole life. We've been prevented from wholeheartedly discovering who we are as men. Our social conditioning has led us to believe that who we are or how we feel doesn't fit within the culture, subconsciously emasculating us. This doesn't mean you will not be asked to show toughness or that having a physical stature is a negative trait. It's just not the only way to exist. Whoever you are and whatever you become is perfect because it's you. When I think of the strongest men, I think of the uninhibited, who are able to reflect on their being without fear of failure or shame. And like Brené Brown says, vulnerability is the birthplace of love, joy, belonging, courage, and empathy. Without implementing a culture of manliness that permits vulnerability as a strength, we will continue to limit the ability of our future generations to thrive. Ingrained in our culture is the adage, crying's for softies. Emotions are there for the weak. But that's nonsense. Knowledge is power, right? Acceptance of self is courageous and brave. The boys who are constricted living a life behind their masks need you. I need you. We need more men and women telling them it's okay. They're not alone. Enable them to put down their oppressive shields. Use that axe, cut themselves free from those stifling attachments. Stand tall in your truth, whether it be 6'5" or 5'6". There's no correlation between physical strength and emotional vulnerability. When I think of the outdated perception of masculinity we all got sold as kids, I think of the finished product, being our fathers, your husbands, teachers, coaches, and mentors. One word comes to mind: stoic. Not affected by or showing passion or feeling. What? No passion? No feeling? No thanks. You see, the silencing of our non-masculine emotion leads to a physical manifestation in our bodies, in our minds, and in our lives. Suppressing feelings turns into actions like substance abuse, aggression, depression, jail sentences, and in some of the more tragic situations, suicide. One experience comes to mind when a former teammate, he'd been injured for the remainder of the season. He was noticeably upset, depressed. I'd been in this situation. I felt inclined to reach out, let him know I was there to listen. He declined. "Nah, I'm good, bro." I was heartbroken to find out that he went home and put his wife in the ICU. See, the standards that subconsciously promote rape culture, violence against women, and physical aggression, they perpetuate these actions. The fundamental issue here is our current culture around raising our boys is restrictive. A kid that thinks he's too cool to assist a friend in need and ask the tough questions has been denied the opportunity to learn, grow, and ultimately become a better man. What I am proposing is not a framework at all, because we need to disintegrate these constraints and cultivate a community of masculine and feminine beings that empower one another compassionately. And it's not going to be easy, but I can guarantee you the life that you want requires you to be vulnerable. Not only do we need to know where the grocery store is and how to cook the food we buy there, for us to nurture the next generation, we must first nurture ourselves. Rather than repress, men, we need to express, because every day is an excursion in the minds of silenced men. And today is no different. It is time for an adventure with him. Namaste.